Hello, everyone. I'm Faith, and this is the Vida English Podcast. Welcome to the Vida English Podcast. You're listening to Language Stories. Language Stories is a series where listeners learn specific English skills through simple personal stories. In each episode, I'll focus on a different part of language as I tell my story. This podcast is for people who have a basic understanding of English, but want to improve their fluency. Today, we're going to learn all about how to use present perfect tense as I tell you about my first overseas teaching experience. In the Language Stories series, I've already told you about my first teaching job in Canada. Today, I'm going to tell you all about my first teaching experience in another country. Have you ever lived in another country besides your home country? From 2012 to 2014, I lived outside of my home country. I was hired to teach English at a high school in a town called Hongseong in the beautiful country of South Korea. Ever since I started traveling during my university days, I loved experiencing different cultures. And in 2012, I finally got the chance to actually live in a different country, not just visit short term. Flying from Canada to South Korea was the longest flight of my life, and I remember being so happy when we finally landed in Seoul. Seoul is South Korea's capital city, for those of you who don't know. So I've seen many airports in my life, but I have never seen an airport quite like Incheon International Airport. I'll never forget walking through the airport and coming upon a beautiful garden of purple orchids. I could tell right away this was no ordinary airport. And later, I found out it was considered one of the best airports in the world. It was so nice to land in a new country and be greeted by such a beautiful airport. Needless to say, I had a great first impression of South Korea. And I ended up having a great 2 years living and teaching there. In the next episode of Language Stories, I'll share some of my favorite things about South Korea. In the story I just told, I used present perfect many times. Let's look at the 5 different ways I used this verb tense. Number 1, to talk about something that happened in the past and is important in the present moment. Example, I've already told you about my first teaching job in Canada, but today I'm going to tell you all about my first teaching experience in another country. So I started this sentence off with, I've already told you. I have already. It's important for this conversation in this moment that I mention, you already know about my teaching job in Canada. Now I'm going to tell you about my teaching job overseas. It's important in the moment to share this thing that happened in the past. Number 2, to use with the word ever when forming yes or no questions. Example, have you ever lived in another country besides your home country? So you'll hear this word ever used with present perfect a lot when people are asking a question. Basically, I want to know from the time you were born up until this moment, have you ever lived in another country? Listen for this. You'll hear it a lot when people are asking you questions. Another example could be, have you ever tried a certain type of food? Have you ever thought about going back to school? Number 3, to talk about something that started in the past and continues into the present. Example, ever since I started traveling during my university days, I have loved experiencing different cultures. So in this case, I use present perfect because I'm talking about something that started in the past. I started traveling when I was in university, and I grew to love experiencing different cultures. That started in the past, but it continues on until the present moment. So, since my university days, I have loved traveling and I have loved learning about different cultures. I'm talking about an interest that started in the past and it continues to the present, and it'll probably continue into the future. Number 4, to talk about an action that has been completed multiple times in the past. Example, I have seen many airports in my life. So in this example, I'm saying that I've visited a lot of different airports in Canada and throughout the world. I've seen a lot of airports. It's something that has happened multiple times. And then I lead up to saying, I've never seen an airport quite like Incheon International Airport. It's so nice. You could use this in many different ways. I've eaten at that restaurant many times. It's really good. So when you've done something repeatedly in the past, you can use present perfect. Number 5, to talk about something that has not happened in the past by using the word never. Example, I have never seen an airport quite like Incheon International Airport. So in this example, I'm saying in the past, up until now, I've never seen an airport that was that nice. You can use this in any negative statement that talks about the past up until now. Maybe you're about to try a new food. You could say, I've never tried octopus before, but I'm excited to try it tonight. Or if someone asks you, have you ever been to Europe? You might say, no, I've never been to Europe, but I'd like to go in the future. All right, now it's your turn. I want to give you a chance to practice using present perfect. Try to answer these questions. Question number 1. Have you ever lived in another country besides your home country? Question number 2. How long have you lived in your current house or apartment? Question number 3. What is a city or country that you have visited many times? Question number 4. What is a country you have never visited but would like to visit in the future? Thanks for tuning in to the Vida English podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for future episodes, or if you'd like information on taking one-on-one online English language classes, email me at info@vitaenglish.ca. That's info@vitaenglish.ca. See you next time.